listen.
Never in my life associated the word boring with baseball.
We know what's up.
Me? Yeah. Famous? Yeah.
And I'm like giddy over there smiling like, we're about to win this shit.
Did everyone give you crap? Give me a good host story.
I'm not picking it up.
We both love the game.
We talk about it every day.
Getting on baseball.
Having some popcorn, you're fooling around your phone.
I'd have to wait in line for 3 hours.
Hang on, because it's about to be a wild ride.
It's another year of West Coast bias. First and foremost, thank you to everyone that listened to this thing last season in our inaugural season. It was a good time. We were kind of all over the place just because baseball is a grind. And so we have to make it work with what the people want. So to every guest that was on here, thank you. All the new followers, Evan, producer Evan, who's joining me for a little bit of a reaction today. Thank you for everything that you do, my friend.
Yep.
And thank you to everyone here at Baseball Isn't Boring. It's a very tight knit family. Super humbled to have a small part of the platform here to rip about and yap about baseball. And that's what we're going to do. My original inaugural show for this season was not going to be this show, but I was on a plane yesterday and somehow, some way, the Los Angeles Dodgers land Kyle Tucker on a 4-year, $240 million contract. And when the Dodgers signed Diaz earlier this offseason, and now that the Dodgers have signed Kyle Tucker, I thought I need to talk to my friend Evan O'Brien, producer Evan, about this, because he's a Mets apologist. If you're watching the YouTube, he's got his Mets propaganda on.
There you go.
But so I just wanted to ask you. Let's start here. But we'll dive into all the angles, if you will, right? But as a Mets fan, you let Edwin Diaz go, and now you strike out on Kyle Tucker. So as a Mets fan, kind of what's the 30,000 kind of foot overview of how you're feeling right now?
So it's been such a bizarre offseason, because obviously all the stories come out right when the season ends about how toxic the locker room was and how, they needed a change of personnel. So it's obviously right when you lose all the guys that we've traded away and or lost in free agency, whether it's Pete Alonso, Edwin Diaz, Jeff McNeil, Brandon Nimmo, you're that's all good and well. And I get that, because obviously if it's just a complete cancer in the locker room in every angle, I get, changing up kind of the chairs in there. But at the same time, I was it's going to be an insanely big ask on how you replace those guys. So it's a really bizarre spot, because it's everything they've done so far, while the analytics might say it's great and while it might end up turning out great, it's just a bizarre thing, because they go in the offseason we want run prevention, but then you want run prevention, but you let the best closer in baseball go, who basically gave up next to no runs pretty much every single year he was here outside of the first couple of years. Then you sign a second baseman and you trade for a second baseman in Marcus Semien, who made a ton of sense in that aspect of it, because you just won the Gold Glove. But then you sign a second baseman in Jorge Polanco to play first, which he's never played before, which doesn't make any sense if you're looking at it from a run prevention angle. You haven't signed a starting pitcher, which would also help, especially a top-notch one in run prevention, because the better pitchers aren't giving up as many runs. So they're just in a really weird spot where it just felt obviously they're trying to be opportunistic when it comes to going after these big guys. And obviously when Kyle Tucker officially kind of came out and more or less through his agents said, I'm willing to take a short-term deal, I was oh, okay, that makes a ton of sense, because they aren't really big long-term deal people outside of Juan Soto. So I was okay, this makes sense. And we have literally one quality outfielder on our roster right now. We have Jarrett Young, who came over from the KBO and has really not done much of anything and really got basically no playing time. Then you got Nick Morabito, who they just added from the minor leagues, but he was in Double-A last year, so he's probably not going to play. They were just protecting him from the Rule 5. And then you got Tyrone Taylor, who I think every single person in baseball was under the assumption that he's your fourth outfielder. So you don't get an outfielder, and then you have Tyrone Taylor. It's just a weird spot. And actually, as I'm saying this, it just comes across that the Mets just signed Bo Bichette to a 3-year, $126 million deal, which is kind of wild, because I like Bo Bichette and I'm actually hyped over this, and I get the understanding of why you're looking at the bat. But the only weird spot is we needed an outfielder. So I don't know what this means in terms of that. Because you got Bo Bichette, you have Marcus. We basically signed 3 second basemen, and we needed an outfielder and a pitcher this offseason. So it's kind of bizarre.
Well, and I think the Bo Bichette thing, you and I were texting last night. I was curious to see where he was going to sign. And listen, I didn't say this to you because I was wanting to save it until now. The timing is just serendipitous. In my opinion, either the Red Sox or the Mets had to sign Bo Bichette. That's kind of where it made sense. In all of this, because we were also texting about this, where are the New York Yankees? It's crazy to me that all of this money is being thrown around by, the Dodgers, by the Red Sox even, right? They went out and got Ranger Suarez, and they've made some moves to kind of up it. The Tampa Bay Rays got better with a trade last night. They went out and got Gavin Lux. Like that's not a quiet move either. And now the Mets, obviously different leagues, but nonetheless, Steve Cohen obviously kind of knew, to quote something that did happen at Citi Field, he knew his ass was in the jackpot, and so he went and got Bo Bichette, right? And so it's, and listen, great. I actually think, given what it is, I 100% agree with you. There's not a lot of long-term guys out there. That there just really isn't. Like, if Cody Bellinger can get 7 years, good for him, right? Like, good for you, man. But even then, I don't think Kyle Tucker. I honestly thought Kyle Tucker was going to sign with the Blue Jays. Like, I think that was kind of, the given from everybody. But the one thing I have to point out, two things here as a Dodgers apologist, because I hear what you're saying. Because the Dodgers were here not too long ago either, during the Frank McCourt era, where they were kind of like missing out on these dudes for a litany of reasons. May have been some clubhouse culture issues as well. And it's interesting that you brought that part up, because Pete Alonso going to the Orioles for what he did is not kind of out of the question, if that makes sense. Yeah. I was surprised by that, but that's all, again, going back to what the AL East is doing. Everybody's getting better except the Yankees.
Exactly.
But as we look at the Dodgers were 2 outs away from losing the World Series.
Yeah.
I have to emphasize that. It's very important.
Yep.
The Toronto Blue Jays were 2 outs away from winning the World Series. They got Ohtani to Dundee. They more or less got Kyle Tucker to Dundee. So they've been in on it, right? They obviously rolled out the Brinks truck for Baby Guerrero. And then you also throw in the part of, Bo Bichette today. I saw this morning when I woke up, that I guess he's expressed concerns about that, kind of career longevity in Toronto on the turf, which is a very valid point in my humble opinion. And then he signs with the Mets. And to your point, again, I said the Red Sox or the Mets probably had to make that move. It still doesn't make sense, because you have like 3 second basemen on the roster. Like
that's my total instant reaction to it is like, don't get me wrong, great bat, obviously hits the crap out of the ball. The only issue was defense, which yet again with the run prevention thing is a little odd. And maybe it was just a bad year last year because he had like the knee issue going into the postseason. He was moved to second base, but it's just a really, like, don't get me wrong, we needed that bat in the lineup, so I'm hyped over that aspect of it. But just initially looking at it from a where he fits in the roster spot, it is kind of weird. But the only thing that comes in the back of my head, because I keep seeing it on my timeline ever since Tucker moved, and maybe this is just the Bo Bichette thing just completely cancels this out because they just needed a bat. But a lot of people have been talking about, Jarren Duran should get traded from the Red Sox to the Mets, and they should give up, let's say, Jonah Tong and Brett Beatty. Now, that would make a ton more sense in my head, because then you have Alvarez behind the plate, you have Polanco first, you have Simeon at second, you have Bichette at third, you have Lindor, and then since Beatty's gone, Bichette's taken his spot, and then you got a Duran to put in center or left. That would make a ton of sense, and then I'd be like, okay, that Bichette thing was all just part of the puzzle, and maybe they were doing that in an effort to say, okay, we're getting rid of Beatty. And if that's the case, it totally makes sense, and I'm kind of back on board. But if it's just like we're going to throw Bo Bichette, who was kind of average at short out in left field, that's bizarre. And then I guess he could be a DH, but I don't think they're signing him to all that money just to be a DH, because they obviously have a Soto and a Vientos that are really not the best outfielders or third baseman, so they'd more be a DH. So it is a weird fit. I'm happy about the bat, but yeah, it's like I was just explaining. It's kind of a bizarre situation.
This is why I'm going to die on this hill. Steve Cohen, if you listen to the show, go sign Cody Bellinger. Like it just makes too much sense for you not to go sign Cody Bellinger, given what's happened, what's transpired really since the beginning of the offseason. Yeah. And here's the thing. Dodgers are 2 outs away from losing the World Series, right?
Yep.
Toronto Blue Jays 2 outs away from winning. They've been aggressive in the offseason, but the Dodgers have been silently doing their thing. Yeah. Like Edwin, I will be 1,000% honest with you. The 2 high-profile signings that the Dodgers have done in this offseason of Edwin Diaz, Kyle Tucker, not on my radar. Because at the end of the day, the Dodgers are loaded up in kind of the offensive and the pitching aspect of it all, right? And they have Tanner Scott. Yeah, he had an off year, but we now know why. He had an abscess in the back of his leg that's going to make it tough for you. And so, rebound year, all that jazz. And plus he got paid a lot of money. Got paid $72 million to come over there. Yeah. And so you get Edwin Diaz for $69 million. Kyle Tucker for $240, which first of all, to me, just what this all sounds like is if there is truth to it, and for all intents and purposes, it does sound like there was a 10-year offer, and then this offer from the Dodgers, and then the Mets offer was in the 4-year 220 range is what's been reported. Yep, not far off. Like you're in the range, right? Yep. But knowing Excel Sports, they weren't going to show their hand to any of these teams. They were simply saying, "Hey, this is what's out there. This is what we have. This is what we're looking at." And I think, for me, what it tells me is it was always about the actual annual average and never about the length of the deal. And the opt-outs were similar between the Dodgers and the Mets. He's banking on himself, and then push comes to shove. You have you don't have the most productive couple years, you can opt out. But here's the thing: that Dodgers lineup now it was already brutal, and you add Kyle Tucker in there. That's tough, man. And here's the thing for me as to why I think the Dodgers are going scorched earth. Yeah. So he's the second player with a qualifying offer that the Dodgers have signed this offseason. And as a luxury tax team, that means that they'll have to forfeit a bunch of picks, a bunch of draft picks. And the thing about Andrew Friedman is he's always been kind of protective of these draft picks. He's been very, very close to the vest with it all, so on and so forth. You go out and you do this, and you're essentially putting everyone on notice that, listen, number one, they want a three-peat, right? Like they know that they have to improve, and they need that depth. And number two, that they are absolutely not afraid to spend. But the kind of the bigger thing that came out yesterday was like, oh, we have to lock it. Like you said it jokingly, lock it out. Just start it now. Just start the lockout now. Yeah. And here's the thing for me, I think what needs to happen is we just need a salary floor. That's just the end of it all. The salary cap isn't going to do a damn thing. We need a salary floor. Like that. Like, I'm just going to put that out there and will it into existence, because the Dodgers should absolutely, just like the Mets, just like if the Yankees were doing it too, they should absolutely be rewarded for spending to put a winning product out there. I'm not even saying that as a Dodgers apologist. I'm saying that as a fan of a pro sport. They should absolutely be rewarded for putting out a winning product. But you can't sit here and say, and you can talk about caps on deferrals, but this is what's in the CBA right now. It doesn't matter. And let's not forget, Ohtani is the one that proposed that damn deal. So like, it's not even the Dodgers didn't propose it. He went to them. Him and Nesbaleo said, hey, we want to defer all of this because we want to win. And so for me, it's those teams should absolutely be rewarded for that sort of stuff. I think Steve Cohen is trying. I just think there's so many other issues with the Mets that need to be addressed, as you mentioned, the clubhouse culture, because all of that stuff spreads like wildfire. Exactly. Because with the Dodgers, listen, if someone offered me $60 million a year for the next 4 years to do my job, I'm probably taking that offer.
Exactly. Yeah. No doubt.
That's just that's the business aspect. But then you throw in that where that offer is coming from is it's the best in the business, and you don't have to really think about the culture. You don't have to think about the resources that are there, everything that comes with it. It's a no-brainer. I'm probably going to walk away with a ring in those first 2 years, given where everything is at. Not guaranteed, because baseball is a grind. But then from there he can still go make more money. Like that's why for me it's a no-brainer, and I understand that, but I don't understand it's the other owners that are just not spending the money. So go back to Steve Cohen. And the reason that's a longer tangent to what I'm getting to here. Steve Cohen was kind of, he was kind of looked at like a Brutus, if you will, when Pete Alonso left, when Edwin Diaz left. And I think that was unfair because I think ultimately those were business decisions by both sides, the player and by the team.
Yep.
Do you, as a fan and kind of what you see from Mets fan, do you think that's kind of how Mets fan is looking at it, or are they still kind of looking at Steve Cohen in that same negative light of like, nah, this guy doesn't know what he's doing?
Well, so I think if you're a fan that relies completely on emotion 24/7 and you never, like, for me, emotional last night, wake up today, say, okay, what's our plan B? Like, that's kind of my mindset for all this stuff. So I love Steve Cohen, and I'm like, hey, you can't hate on Steve Cohen for a guy going elsewhere, because as you were talking, I was kind of thinking of it as like college NIL, right? You have an offer from Ohio State or from, let's say now, Indiana, and they're coming off a championship. And then you have the exact same offer from UCLA, who hasn't been good in football in about like a million years. And it's like the money is no longer the thing at that point. It's like, I got 60 mil from this team and 60 mil from this team. I pretty much can guarantee and bet on myself and say, hey, I'm willing to guarantee that if I go to this team, one, I'm going to make them better, and two, they were already good without me, so I'm making them better. It's kind of like the KD thing. Whereas you're going to UCLA, you're getting the money, but your quality of life and your chance of winning a Super Bowl or winning a World Series or winning a college football playoff there is a lot harder, because it's like, I don't have the team around me. I'm making 60 mil. Everything's great. So it's like, that's kind of the tricky thing that Steve Cohen's been running into when he comes up against the Dodgers, which he has in both of these negotiations. I was actually just thinking about it. Diaz, based on all reports, came down to the Dodgers, Blue Jays, and Mets. Tucker comes down to the Dodgers, Blue Jays, and Mets. So I think it came down to the exact same thing for both guys at the end of the day. I think it was, they probably told their agent, I don't mind Toronto if they give me a ton of money and they just make every other team in the negotiation look foolish, because it's like, dude, we're going to blow you away. I'll go there. I like the Mets because Steve Cohen says, screw it, I want to win. I'll pay to win. It hasn't worked so far, but I might go there. But if the Dodgers, because they have the sales pitch of the weather's great, you don't have to be the star. We already have the star. We have the biggest star in the sport. So it's like, if we have a media day, like they were showing at the All-Star game a couple of years ago, if we have a media day and you're sitting next to Shohei Ohtani, I hate to break it to you, nobody's talking to Kyle Tucker over Shohei Ohtani. So it's like, it's one of those situations, along with the fact that in the Zoom presser or in the Zoom interview they're doing with him, they got 2 World Series trophies that they just won the past 2 years behind them, whereas Steve Cohen's like, you can be something special here, you can build something special here. And some guys, feast on that, like Amai with the Astros, but other guys are like, dude, I'm only getting older, and also, I can make money and do this, help a team try to win after my second year if I decide to opt out, because he'll only be 31. Bo Bichette, in this case, will only be 30 years old after 3 years with the Mets. So I think they're looking at it that way, where it's like, the upcoming free agent classes stink. I make my money now. I have the best chance of going with the Dodgers, and I'll go back out in the free agent market, and after I've won and have a World Series on my resume, then I can go be the savior of another organization that doesn't really have as much of a shot as the Dodgers do to win. So,
in all of this with Bo Bichette, the thing that's interesting is it had been widely reported that the Phillies were like,
that's what I was thinking. Yeah.
And again, going back to kind of where it's like, is there a culture thing we don't know about there? Is there something else that we are unaware? Like, I know that Bryce Harper is a red ass, but in a good way. Like, I think every clubhouse needs to have that guy. Yep. And it's not like to have schmucks over there, right? I mean, you have Trey Turner. You keep. You have it all. You have it there. Really, the only issue is you don't have Ranger Suarez now, but that's okay. Like, I don't look at it as like a loss per se, because he's a good starter. He's a solid major league horse, but he's not going to get you over the hump, right? He's not going to go out. He's not pitching Game 7 of the World Series for you unless he has to. But But it's in all of it though is Bo Bichette would have made a lot of sense in that lineup for a whole bunch of reasons. And so as a fellow NL East guy, what stands out to you about that? Like what are we missing here?
So one, I mean, when I was reading that as we were just doing the instant, how I felt last night about the Bichette thing, I was shocked that it said the Mets because from, like whichever insider you want to believe, whether it's Passan, Murray, Nightingale, Rosenthal, you name it, Sherman, Heyman, every one of them said the Phillies were basically running away with it. Now, I think every one of them also acknowledged that once Kyle Tucker left, every team is probably running towards another guy and being like, hey, so we might have not had that cash 2 seconds ago, but now we got that cash now because we didn't give it to him. So I think that's probably what the Mets ended up doing. They went from, hey, we have no offer, Phillies just give you whatever you want and you're going to go there, as compared to like, okay, we lost out on him. We'll give you, I don't even know what his AAV ended up being on this, but probably like 30 mil a year now. So, and then I think the other thing with the Phillies that's kind of tricky, and I think why they're kind of stuck in the mud as compared to the Dodgers, is one, they have the same situation going on as the Dodgers, where the regular season, you can pretty much fast forward to the postseason with the Phillies the past couple of years with their roster, because it's like the Mets, it's like, oh man, we added all this stuff, but you still have to flip a coin as to whether or not we're going to make it every year. The Phillies have made it every year, but I think the biggest thing that's holding them back and why it's kind of nuts that they didn't get Bichette is the Dodgers. It's like, hey, we won a World Series, but now we're going to go out and add Tanner Scott. Hey, we won and Blake Snell. Hey, we won a World Series, but now we're going to go out and add Kyle Tucker and Edwin Diaz because we were good enough to win it, but now we're even better. Whereas the Phillies right now, it does feel like they're stuck in the mud because it's like, hey, we got eliminated in the first round or the second round, but we're not going to do anything. We're going to add Max Kepler, and I don't even remember the other guys. They re-signed Aaron, but it's like they've done like such minuscule signings that I think it's like they've, like under Dombrowski, they become the team like the Dodgers where the regular season is just a given. They're probably going to win the NL East. They're going to make the playoffs regardless. But I feel like the part where they've gotten stuck in the mud and why they end up not really making it even to the NLCS is because the Dodgers say, hey, we won it all, but it's not good enough. We're going to add the two best players, on the market. Whereas the Phillies are like, hey, we got eliminated in the second round, and we're going to go hard after this guy. But then they end up with the exact same roster outside of, I think, Adolis Garcia was their biggest signing, and he got non-tender by the Rangers. So they're in a weird spot where it's like, they're good. They're going to be good because they have an insane rotation, and their lineup has been pretty solid. But it's bizarre that they've never in the past couple of years have added like a big name bat to really change up the vibe of like, oh man, 1 through 5 they're good, instead of being like the Dodgers where it's like 1 through 9 that guy can hurt you. So it's bizarre there.
Interesting with this Bo Bichette deal. 3 years, $126 million, AAV of $42 million, and includes opt-outs after the 26 and 27 seasons.
Oh, gotcha.
Interesting. I mean, listen,
that makes sense though.
I think it's a great deal for both sides.
Yeah.
And if Bo kind of keeps doing what he's doing, he can go to that market and maybe get himself Kyle Tucker money as well.
Exactly.
But it makes sense for both sides. It's just, man, this offseason's been interesting. It's just been there's been a lot of little moves that have been solid moves, but they're little moves. And a lot of guys that people were like, oh yeah, this guy's a Dodger, have not panned out to be Dodgers. This guy's a Yankee, have not really panned out to be Yankees. And then you look at kind of, going back to the Mets, Pete Alonso moving to Baltimore, did not have that on my bingo card. Yeah. Edwin Diaz being a Dodger, did not have that on my bingo. I mean, I jokingly said to a friend, I was like, listen, I would love to have Edwin Diaz in our bullpen, but like you already have 3 dudes that can, that are elite, but and they load it up, and it's also letting you know too, they don't really care kind of what these other teams are going to cry poor about, because your team could also do that too, right? And the NIL analogy used is actually a great analogy, because a lot of times, right, if Ohio State calls you and you're a 5-star wide receiver and they're offering you, let's say, $5 million. And that same offer comes from Michigan. That same offer comes from USC. And that same offer comes from, we'll say, Texas, right? Those are all blue bloods. Like, and in this particular instance, really the only blue blood here is the Dodgers.
Yep.
You know, the Mets and the Blue Jays they're up and coming. They're in the right direction, trending that way. That is, especially the Blue Jays. But when you have a blue blood call you at least have to take the call, right? It doesn't matter how much it is, even if it's $1 million less. You take that call, and if you have a good agent, the agent's going to say, "Listen, man, this is what I'm trying to get. This is what the market is saying he's going to get. This is where we're at. What do we got to do to kind of get here?" And
Exactly.
And listen, I don't know if maybe it was with the Blue Jays, like never in a million years did I ever think someone would say, "Hey, 10 years, it's not going to make it happen."
Yeah.
Like that's kind of crazy. But to your point, Toronto's a great city, but there's the exchange rate. There's a little extra pain in the ass to kind of move around the whole thing. But again, I'm just more intrigued that he clearly he picked the Dodgers for a lot of the things you just listed. That brother is going to be quietly doing what he's going to do, and all anyone's going to care about is what the top of the lineup's going to do.
Exactly.
Going to be protected, and like you said, when it comes to like media obligations, all that jazz, they're not going to want to talk to Kyle Tucker. They're going to want to talk to Shohei Ohtani. They're going to want to talk to Mookie Betts. They're going to want to talk to Roki Sasaki, Yoshinobu Yamamoto. There's a whole list of dudes.
The list
they're going to want to talk about.
Yeah.
So it's a win-win, right? And so it's listen. I just think the last thing I wanted to touch on, because you're talking about a lockout. If this is what the precipice is of a lockout, and you're just going to blame the Dodgers, then that lockout's going to be so long. It's going to not be a good time. So and again, I know that thing you posted last night was in jest. It's just fun.
Exactly.
But in the grand scheme of things, like Steve Cohen's trying to do the same thing, right? The Dodgers are doing it. The Phillies are spending money. The Orioles are spending money. You know, and then you have kind of your list of usual suspects. The Blue Jays are trying to spend money. The Cubs just went out and got Bregman. The Red Sox are spending money. So how is it that the Dodgers are the ones that are breaking kind of all of this, and that they're the reason that we have to go into a lockout?
Yeah, and it feels like I've always, every time, as much as I say that, because it's just nutty how you're like, all right, the Dodgers won the second World Series. Maybe they'll chill out a little more and just let Alex Call be their left fielder for a year, have one weakness in their entire lineup. No big deal. And then they get the bang guy. I think that's just the immediate reaction from everybody. But my view on it is like, these guys bought into ownership, obviously to make money, but you could very easily sell and make a ton more than you're making on the revenue that you get from the team, I bet, right? You could it's like, as much as the Pirates owners, like, we can't be competitive. It's like, guess what, dude? You could sell it tomorrow to a guy that actually cares about the team, and you'll make double the amount of money that he's going to make trying to run this team. So it's like, that's the part where the owners thing, it's like, oh, well, we can't compete. And I'm just like, I feel, but then you could just sell it, because every franchise is probably at least over $1 billion, if not over like $10 billion right now. So it's like the guys that lose their mind. I'm like, dude, if I had a house that was worth $9 million and I was like, man, the sink keeps breaking down, I'll just sell the house for $9 million and then buy a house that doesn't have a broken sink kind of situation. So it's a really weird situation. And at the end of the day, I don't think it's the fact that the Dodgers are just nonstop spending, because that's just what they do and that's what ownership allows. I think it's more so the reason that people go there so much so is they offer the same amount. But, if you're Pittsburgh and you're trying to offer him, he's like, you guys haven't won it forever and you really have nothing to show for it. So all I'm going there is for the money. Whereas the Dodgers and some of these other top teams, they have the trophies and the rings to talk about, and they have clearly the clubhouse guys where it's like, if you're going to the Pirates, you're going to the A's, and you're getting a call from like Nick Kurtz, or you're getting a call from Ryan O'Hearn, it might not move you as much as getting on a Zoom call and having Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, Shohei Ohtani, Yoshinobu Yamamoto all being like, hey man, join us. We have the best clubhouse, because the best clubhouses are the ones that win. Like, the stories don't come out about how the Dodgers have a bad clubhouse if they're winning. Like, it's not like, oh, we won a World Series, but Shohei really hated Freddie. It's like, no, it's hard to like go into work and be mad when all you do is get to the World Series every year for no big deal. So I feel like that's the biggest kind of comeback to that kind of stuff, is it's like, yeah, sure, the salary cap is one thing, but one, the players are never going to agree to it, so it would just last forever. And then two, it's just at the end of the day, if the Dodgers lose a couple World Series in a row and go back to like losing in the first round, let's say, then they might not be as appealing as the Blue Jays or the Mets who just won 2 World Series in a row. So I think it changes strictly based on what you've done recently and what the guy thinks you'll do in the future with him on your team, as compared to just like, oh, well, they threw the most money at him. It's like, yeah, the Mets also offered him 60-60, 50-50, and he chose the Dodgers, who offered him 60-60, because I imagine he'll opt out after that second year, because much like him and Bo Bichette, the best guys on the market next year that are hitters are Nico Horner and Steven Kwan, who've never hit more than 5 homers in a season in their career. Probably like 10 is more the number. But it's like, so if I'm Bo Bichette, yeah, sure, my market may or may not have been decent this year. I'll opt out after the first year, and then bam, I'm the top guy again. Kyle Tucker, I'll opt out after the second year, and then bam, I'm the top guy again. So it's like, it's no, some teams don't want to do it because they hate getting burned by the opt-outs. But at the end of the day, if you want to land the guy, I mean, you kind of got to do whatever it takes to land him, and that's what they've obviously been doing. So,
to use an example, Nolan Arenado added the Arizona Diamondbacks to his non-trade list, and he's been nothing but complimentary about how that organization is run. I believe he lives in Phoenix. I may be wrong, but I believe he lives there. So for him, it's home. But it's one of those where sometimes you have to kind of be unconventional in certain ways, and you make the deal work, right? Because the Cardinals were going to move on from Nolan for all intents and purposes. They wanted to find a way out. The player made it easier to kind of make it happen because they have that no trade clause. But I will say, to your point, if the Pirates want to keep Paul Skeens, if the Dodgers come a-calling, because obviously when that dude goes to free agency, he's going to go to free agency. He'd be foolish not to, and to see kind of what the market is going to dictate what he gets. But it's one of those where, like, if the Dodgers come a-calling, if the Yankees come a-calling, and let's just say, for all intents and purposes, the Red Sox come a-calling, because if the Red Sox don't come a-calling, that's a bigger problem. But you those are the 3 blue bloods of the sport, right? And you kind of have to you have to look at what each one offers, and they all offer very different things, and that's just how you make the most intelligent decision that you can kind of make for your situation. But from there too, right? I mean, because like you said, money is a factor, 100%. And for a guy like Skeens, I think it's going to be an important factor, but I don't think Skeens necessarily cares about money per se as much as, let's say, a starter. You know, I don't know who in this current market would be, but they want to have the highest annual average for a starting pitcher, right? Those are 2 very different scenarios. Yeah. And so, but it's one of those where it's like, dudes, you've all of your teams could do this. Every single team in baseball can do what the Los Angeles Dodgers do. They have just chosen not to for a litany of reasons. And I'm not going to sit here and tell them how to run a business, but in that same respect, I think Major League Baseball should step in and say everyone needs to at least spend this much. And that's kind of where some of that quote unquote disparity or the lack thereof kind of gets zoned out, if you will. But even then, there's always going to be teams that are going to spend the minimum. Like that's all they're going to spend and nothing else. And then I think there should be like a kicker where, like, hey, if you spend X more than the minimum, then you get a bigger portion of the rev share. But if you don't, then this is what you're getting, and that's it. There's no, because that's the thing, right? All these fans that talk about all that, and then it's like, yo, the Dodgers are bankrolling some of your teams. Like literally just with luxury tax, the Dodgers are bankrolling some of these teams. And so that's, I think, one of the things that needs to get fixed. But that's the thing. When you have that, like you use the example of, I have a $9 million house. The sink sucks. I'm going to sell it and buy another $9 million house. The Dodgers have so much money that I don't think it's about the money per se for them. It's a matter of getting the right fit for kind of their puzzle pieces that they need to make work. And if it ends up costing them $240 million, $260, $300 million, they're unopposed to it because it makes sense for them because they'll find another way to leverage it somewhere else. And that's how bankers work. It's all about leverage. Steve Cohen does that. You don't think he didn't leverage that Soto deal in some capacity elsewhere? He absolutely did, in marketing and in other factors like that to try to recoup that money. But the resources, what it all boils down to is that's a part of the resources is how you're going to do that. We could talk about this for hours. I'm just literally what I'm trying to do this year is I'm trying to enjoy the season because
you go.
I think the lockout is going to be long. And
Yeah, it's going to stink.
yes, but I want to enjoy it. And one of my favorite people to yap about baseball with, Evan O'Brien, one of our producers here at Baseball Isn't Boring, Mets apologist. Thank you for joining me. I am so sorry that you didn't get Kyle Tucker, but congratulations on getting Bo Bichette.
Thank you. Yeah, no, it should be interesting because I mean that's kind of the fun thing about the offseason is I know Rob and plenty of others who have to cover it every day and have to, try to hear what the rumors are on are like, come on, dude. Like I want a month where I could just chill before the year. But it is kind of fun as a fan. I mean, it definitely stinks when there's a quiet periods, but it's definitely fun as a fan when stuff happens and then you're like, all right, so this happened and then this could correlate to this and then this. You try to get in the GM's mind. It is kind of a fun time. So I don't hate that part of it, even though it goes on never ending, but it's a good time.
One of the things that I think that they need a CBA on is there has to be a signing period, like from here to here, and that's it. If you don't do it during then, have a nice life. Like
there you go.
But I think that's what's going to get more eyes on the game. Because like, listen, Kyle Tucker signs yesterday, right? It's all over the internet. All over the internet.
Yeah.
When Pete Alonso signed with the Orioles, it was a big thing, but it wasn't as big as what the Dodgers just did, right? And so that there's levels to this thing, and you kind of have to find that medium in order for it to work. And if they had a signing period, kind of like they do in the NBA, eyes aren't up. But what do I know? What do I know, Evan? I don't know anything. Well, this has been another episode of West Coast Bias here on Baseball Isn't Boring. If you're not following our socials, please go follow them at BB Isn't Boring. I'm sure when we share this, you'll find our personal socials. Give us a follow too. And more importantly, thank you for listening. Thank you for joining. We will catch you on the next one. Condolences, but also congratulations to my friend Evan O'Brien. You got a consolation prize today, dude. It turned out it is kind of funny because we went into it being like, all right, this is the post-mortem. This is like, unfortunately, going to the wake and being like, oh, how do you remember the Mets pursuit of Tucker? And then it kind of turned into like it stinks we lost Tucker, but hey, we it's like kind of, you're right in the middle because you're like, I'm not extremely happy because we're landing everybody, but at the same time, I'm not sad that we got nobody. We got the middle. I'm just stoked that we got guys that were not on my bingo card, and I'm not even mad about it. Well, we'll catch you on the next one. Until then, stay up, stay safe. We'll talk soon.